Oh no, it did not start recording. What's that? Okay. All right. Here we are today with another wonderful interview from the New Jersey Independent Film Festival. Owen is here with me today. He has a I laugh when I say it because I'm like, this is so cool. The name of it's Miracle Under 34th Street, and it involves rats, which most of us usually cringe at. So I'm like, this is awesome. But before we go ahead and talk about the film, I want to talk about Owen for a second. One of the cool things that I found out about you is you used to work for the Lego Group as a brick specialist. Now, I want to
Mhm.
consider myself intelligent, but then when I say to myself, a brick specialist. So tell us, Owen, what does a brick specialist do?
Well, I think a brick specialist is a pretty fancy name for just saying I stock the shelves. I worked at
Okay.
the flagship store on Fifth Avenue for a while I was in my last year of college.
Okay.
And so I was just part of the operations team. So we just sort of replenished the shelves and things like that. So they called us the brick specialist because we should know everything about the products and help people out. But I was just stocking shelves.
Ah, okay. Well, I still like the brick specialist word myself. I was puzzled. I was like, what's a brick specialist? I've never heard this
Yeah.
before, but nice. I can appreciate the title. So I want to talk to you about, I know that in the past you have produced two video games, which I think is fascinating. I'm like producing any kind of video, anything to me is like foreign, let alone video games, which of course I'm assuming goes to a mass audience. So tell us a bit about what goes into the actual production of making a game itself.
Um, well, I haven't thought about those games for so long. I did them so long ago, it feels like. Um, but I really wanted to, this was during COVID, so I kind of had a lot of free time on my hands. And I really wanted to make some sort of game. And the gameplay itself wasn't really super important to me. I think it was an excuse to just sort of see my characters move, but not just move, but when you press a certain button or something, they'll do an action or move around. And I was really fascinated by the idea of really puppeteering these characters. So the gameplay aspect I wasn't as interested in, and the coding wasn't so interested in. I was really interested in the art and animation. Um, so I made this game. The first one I did was called Jesus versus Satan, where you play as Jesus and you basically fight Satan to the death.
Okay.
Basically, I just followed a tutorial online, which gave me all the code. I did it in a software called Unity, which was free at the time. I don't know if it still is. But I basically just sort of took that code and used it as a template. So it wasn't any, insight on how to code or anything like that. It was just sort of taking somebody's template and simple game mechanic and then just applying my artwork to it and wanting to tell a
Mhm.
story that way. And that was really fun. And then I did another one. Um, about a rat and a crocodile running away from the cops after they burned down a donut shop. And that was simple. It was sort of like, you jump over different obstacles as you go and you got to get to the other side of the screen. And so that one was a little more difficult because I was using a whole bunch of different tutorials online and coding because I don't know how to code. And my dad actually helped me a lot with that because he was doing the same thing where he was sort of experimenting with Unity and putting things in there. So he kind of helped me out and we figured it out together. So that was a fun experience and all that was all during COVID. So yeah, it was really fun.
Well, I imagine so. And a piggyback question as far as video games. Nowadays, we live in a world where things have gotten so high tech. Some even say very violent in nature when it comes to video games, and kids are, of course, are stuck on these all the time. So, what is your just overall opinion of where we've gone with the direction of video games as a whole at this point?
I don't know. I sort of play a lot of single player stuff in my free time and things like that. So I'm not always super tuned into online video games, but I know that a lot of people, play them online with their friends and things like that, and I
Yeah.
think that's cool. Um, I think that's interesting. But to be honest, I don't have crazy amounts of insight to it. I just know
Okay.
when I was making my own games, I was really into the process was fun and sort of seeing my character being puppeteered. That was really, really what intrigued me to it. And have my characters really become alive.
Sure. Oh, I imagine so. Now, if people wanted to act, are these available to actually play, or did you just?
They used to be. They were on this
Okay.
website called simmer.io, but I think it went down like in the past year. And
Oh,
so I have these games like on my laptop or hard drive somewhere. And
okay.
so I might have to find another hosting site. But normally, yeah, they're able to play online. But I got to figure out, give them a new life or something.
Oh, no kidding. That would be cool to see, actually. I don't know a lot of people who actually created their own games. So I'm like, I think if you have it, you should get it out there like all over the place. I'm like, that's so
Yeah.
exciting. It's awesome. Um, so I want to switch gears for a second and talk about animation because that's one of the things that you do all the time. Most of us don't know how to use animation, let alone I think some of us are fearful of the fact that it's expensive, it's time consuming, and there's that fear out there. So let's start with if you are talking to someone today who is looking to get into animation at the very basic level, let's say they don't have a lot of money to spend, they don't have a lot of time to put into it. What would you recommend they go into? Because I know there's various versions of excuse me, animation as well.
hmm well, I would recommend that they look into somebody named Bill Plimpton, and he's actually who I work for. He's an
Yeah.
independent animator, and part of my day job is, helping him produce his stuff and manage production. But I find him, he's been a big influence on me, and I think can be a really big influence on other people. He already is, but he does everything himself, and he draws every drawing himself. And so, not every frame of film needs its own drawing. There's a lot of recycled drawing, and a lot of uh, simpler techniques that he often uses to cut down on costs and sort of be independent. And I think that's really eye-opening, and I wish that's something I saw the way he would approach things when I was younger. Because I think people have an idea of animation, they think of really crazy $100 million films and really crazy expensive productions.
Yeah.
Um, but with Bill, all he really needs is, his pencil and some colored pencils maybe and a pen, and that's it. And he can really do all the drawing himself. So in my own practice, that's sort of what I'm inspired by,
Okay.
because he really takes control of the entire process. And I think it sort of puts a new lens on an animation and especially indie animation on what it really um, can be and make it not so intimidating, because his work is very accessible.
Ah, very nice. Okay. And I have heard recently that supposedly, I don't know if this is true, it was in the news that there is talk that there's going to be a completely all AI animation studio. So, of course, because it's the hot subject of the month here, I guess I should ask someone who works within this, what are your thoughts on the idea of AI animation studios or just really the concept of AI being integrated into animation?
I guess I'm not surprised that something like that is popping up, and I'm sure people it's going to get a lot of traction and people are going to be really interested in it. But I think in general, what you sort of lose is sort of the love for the process. And I think you sort of risk people not connecting with it as much
Yeah.
or really wanting to is sort of my main takeaway from it. Because when I see something that's AI or even like an AI festival or whatever, um, I just find myself not very interested in it because I feel like the creators themselves weren't that interested. Either they weren't super interested to know, learn how to do something, or they wanted to do it really quickly. And maybe those are, generalizations about it, but from my perspective, that's sort of how I view it. I view it as people that aren't super interested in the process, of making a film, but also, process of creating something themselves. So that's sort of my perspective on it.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And one other exciting thing that I noticed is you did work on Whale 52, which was qualified for Oscar consideration, which is so exciting when you hear something about that. So, having worked on a project like that, I guess, do you say to yourself, yeah, you know what? I'm starting to expect more out of myself, or start the stars are aligning up and saying, hey, you know what? I can see a very long foreseeable future in this. Did this really help you? Kind of like a pat on the back confidence builder sort of thing.
A little bit, yeah. It was really fun to work on that film and sort of have it go all over the world with festivals. I was able to travel with it to the Berlin Festival,
Oh,
Berlinale,
Okay.
And the short won the Crystal Bear, and that was really thrilling. And so I had never had an experience like that before. So I don't know if it makes me, expect too much of myself, but um, doing that and being able to submit files to the academy and all that was really cool. It was really stressful.
Sure.
I put a lot of pressure on making sure I got that all right because it's, part of what I do for Bill. Um, but it was really, really thrilling and sort of reminds me like, oh yeah, I really want to stay in this space. This is really exciting. And so that film in particular, there always seems to be something exciting happening with it and how people are receiving it. So I'm just so thrilled to sort of, have a part in it.
I bet. Congratulations on that, by the way. Now,
Thanks.
before we start talking about the film itself, what I want to ask you is this. If someone happens to watch this today, whether they're younger, older, any age, and they are considering the idea of getting into animation, are there set skills they should have, or is there anything that they need to know? Because I know for me, I completely can't even draw. I can't even do a stick person. So I'm like, I'd probably be a terrible animator, but maybe I'm wrong. So are there certain things that we need to have or know before we get into this?
I think probably sort of definitely you can't just start animating and go straight ahead and think, I'll just draw this film as it goes along. There's a lot of steps in the process. Like having a storyboard is really important. Um, so I think, sort of having an expectation on how sort of to plan it out is always good. Having some sort of drawing skill set I think is good, but there's so many different styles of animation. you know, I think as long as the story is good and you make something that's really appealing to people, I don't think really the skill set in drawing is really all that important. I think it can help draw people in, no pun intended. But I think as long as you have a good story and that might be okay. Another thing I think is just not to be afraid of it. I think people are really afraid of animation, and I
Oh,
was sort of afraid to do it as well, but um, you have to love the process of it too, and seeing your drawings come alive. And so I think not being afraid or see it so intimidating is also sort of key. I think just getting started and learning as you go is probably the best method because I'm learning all the time. And I realize if I did something that's not super efficient or maybe I could have done something better in the past. But just getting, a film made is already a huge, step in the right direction.
oh, absolutely, without a doubt. And thank you so much for that. So, A Miracle Under 34th Street. So, the first thing I want to ask is it's 2 minutes long. So, oftentimes when we look at films and we say, oh, look, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I'm thinking, how do they create such magic in 2 minutes? So, that's my question to you is, how is it conceivably possible to create a story in such a short amount of time?
I think keeping it simple is key. And that was something I really kept in the back of my mind when I started this. And, I was really scared to start it. It began as just a storyboard, a simple animatic I was sending out as a Christmas card. And so it was just sort of, semi-polished thumbnails sort of story showing the story and timed out to a rough track of sound and music and whatever. And
Yeah.
I did that. And that's what I was doing a lot, because I was spending most of my time, working with Bill and having a lot of my time taking up like that. So I was sort of afraid to commit to a long-term project since I left school.
Yeah.
Um, and so part of it was keeping it really simple to keep it to 2 minutes. I was later inspired to sort of, fully flesh it out and complete it. But definitely keeping it short and simple is the best way to go.
Oh, okay. And of course, I want to ask about the inspiration behind. Did you physically see the characters in your head, or were they based on something? Because they're very finite, very well detailed. It's almost like you had a vision for it when you were doing it.
Not necessarily. I mean, I just kind of like drawing rats and things like that and rodents. I did another short film before this, which also stars a rat in the subway, coincidentally. But they're not related. Um, but I find myself in the subway so much, and so it's sort of a fascinating place. You sort of like wonder what's down there and what the rats are up to. And I think I think I thought of this on the train or something like that. But I didn't really have a clear vision in my head. It's sort of I'll draw a design that I really like, and sort of build off of that, and sort of with my own drawing style, you sort of wonder what this might look like and what that might look like, and it's sort of like building blocks. I don't necessarily have it all mapped out in my brain. I sort of see, what looks good, what's working, what's not, and sort of through iteration, I come to the point where I'm happy with it.
Okay, gotcha. Now, in your particular case, one of the things that stood out to me, I have to know about the musical score and who created it because it was just brilliantly matched the movie. Very well done.
Yeah, I reached out to a friend of mine, Jacob Clements. He also worked on Whale 52. He did some of the sound design for that, along with another short film I helped Bill Plimpton produce called Duckville. So I knew him from my time at the studio, and I knew he was a musician. And so I reached out to him because I really wanted original music for this. And so I basically had the picture locked down with some temp music. And I asked him if he was willing to do, something, very Christmassy and a little bit cheesy, but something that works for the thing. And he said, yeah, okay. And so, we got together with some of the friends of his and, came back with this wonderful piece of music. I didn't originally intend it to be really jazz focused, which is what it is in the film.
Right.
That was his idea, but I really think it worked well, and I was really stunned and amazed the way it turned out. I was so happy and impressed with it, um, and really proud that there's an original song to my short, which I never had before. So, hats off to Jacob and his crew.
You betcha. Would it be fair to say actually that music, I say it all the time, I think music can be a character of its own, literally bring a story to another level, get you to a different understanding of it. Of course, in this case, it's a very, what I consider to be somewhat simple story, but I do think that it does add to something. So great choice on that one. So the two rats, without getting into it too much, because we don't want to give away the story because it goes so fast. But I guess the real question is if I were to ask you to say to everyone in two sentences, what do you think Miracle on 34th Street's about?
Uh, it's a good question. If I wanted to be real pretentious, maybe it's about materialism and it's a dark twist on materialistic tendencies, I suppose.
Interesting. Because I was thinking about that when I was watching it. I was wondering if you had one class of person as being one rat, one class of person as being the other rat, and then this exchange happens. And I'm like, am I reading into this too much? Because then I'm thinking, I'm analyzing a rat right now. But that's kind of the power of cinema. There's actually a story behind this 2 minutes that you put together, obviously. Also, I can't believe I'm saying this because I go to New York all the time and I've lived there for weeks on end. And the subway and me saying that rats are cute just doesn't make sense. But your rats were cute. They're actually cute.
Thanks.
How did you do that? Because I'm like, rats in New York are not cute, just so you folks know. Not cute.
Well, I often don't draw cute things, really not at all. And my mom would sometimes challenge me to draw something cute. Um, so I generally don't do it, but I intentionally made them appealing to try and really make the ending work to not give anything away. But it was sort of intentional the way they looked, and I did try to make them cute because normally I don't. Normally I draw like wrinkly, crazy people is what I really get thrills from. So it was sort of a change of pace, but I think it made me develop as an artist.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as I mentioned, this was at the New Jersey Independent Film Festival. I know that you were not present, but did you find out how the screening went, what the feedback was on the film?
I didn't find out anything of how it went, but I did go to a couple screenings. There were at other times I had it screened at the Astoria Film Festival, and I
Okay.
got a good response there. A lot of people laughed, and then the Iron Mule Comedy Shorts Festival, which it won the Judges Award, which I was really proud of, and a lot of people laughed. And just hearing people laugh and have a response, that really makes it really validating to the story and everything. Because I've seen it so many times, I sort of forget sometimes if it works or not. So
Yeah.
watching it with other people is always really thrilling.
Well, I imagine so. And I know you've mentioned, of course, that you're headed through the film festival circuit. Do you anticipate at some point when you're finished that you'll actually distribute it someplace where folks will be able to see it?
Yeah, I doubt it would go in conventional distribution route. I don't know if there's much of a market for that anymore, but definitely it'll be on YouTube.
Sure.
I'm really excited to put it on there. There's a lot of people that give me nice comments on some of my work, so I'm really dying for them to see it. But I always get feedback that I shouldn't put my stuff online before, it's over with the festivals, just in case it ruins its chances. But I'm pretty anxious to put it on there just because I want to, get it out and have the most people possible see it.
Awesome. Okay, so now moving forward, besides this particular project, what else do we have coming up in 2026 that you're working on?
Well, I'm working on a new short. It's 5 minutes long, so it's a little more ambitious, and it actually has dialogue. And it's about this guy named William Henry Harrison, who was the ninth president of the U.S. But he only served for 30 days because he got sick and died. So I'm sort of doing a comedy spoof on that. And so I've had this idea like rattling in my head for a long, long time. And I was working on the storyboards for a long time, and I wasn't happy with it until I revisited it later this year, and I got it to a point where I feel like I'm ready to animate it. So I have about a minute animated. So I hope it's done before the end of the year, but we'll see.
And figures on that one, of course. Now, if those watching today by chance want to reach out to you, speak to you, meet you in person, etc., what's the best place on or offline to do that?
They can follow me on Instagram. It's Owen Andrejco Art. Um, they can also email me, just owenanddraco@gmail.com.
Okay.
Uh, I'm happy to talk to people.
Awesome. And are you out and about in New York City, someplace like going to events where people might be able to run into you?
Not all the time. I tend to sort of stay home and animate most of the time. But yeah, I don't have anything planned so far. But
Okay.
I live in New York and New Jersey, so I'm walking around.
Yeah, I get you. So just run into them at some given point in time. So,
Yeah.
Owen, I just want to say to you what I say to most filmmakers because I don't think they hear it enough, but just thank you so very much. I know that most people might watch this and say, oh, it's only 2 minutes of work. But if they really considered how much time and trouble goes into 2 minutes of animation, etc., they'd understand that this is really a sacrifice and a labor of love in a lot of ways. So thank you so much for the work you do, and we appreciate the smiles and the cringes that you give to us in your projects.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.